We are speaking with Bethany Neal, who is the author of My Last Kiss, a young adult thriller out now from FSG. Bethany, I love this cover. It has this very sort of fractured feel to it and gives us the sense that there's like a really strong element of disharmony in this book. Your main character, Cassidy, is trapped in a rather liminal space until she's able to sort out what led her there. Tell us about that. Tell us about what Cassidy's up against.
Well, yeah, the cover is sort of really representing exactly what's happening to her. I actually spoke with the cover designer, and her idea was because in the book, Cassidy has lost all of her memories of the week leading up to her death, which is not a spoiler. She's dead on page 1. So, so it's supposed to be sort of her piecing her memory back together, which is what she spends the whole book doing. So she's died, and she sort of wakes up in chapter 1 dead, and she can't remember anything. So she's trying to piece things together, and the more she finds out, the more she realizes that her friends are involved in it, and she doesn't know which ones. So she's sort of going through a lot of trust issues and trying to figure things out, being a ghost all of a sudden, and also trying to solve her death because everyone thinks it's suicide, and she knows it wasn't. So
Okay.
kind of wants to clear her name as well.
Right. Okay. So even though you're dealing with paranormal, it sounds like the conflict itself is really rooted in Cassidy's relationship.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it has that paranormal element because she's a ghost, but I mean, really everything else, my editor and I both sort of see it more as a contemporary, just because, I mean, you kind of forget she's a ghost often. The only thing that really pokes at it a lot is, I mean, obviously she can't touch anyone, and people can't hear her, but for the most part, the stuff she's going through and, mentally is, regular teenage stuff, trying to figure out who you are, who you can trust, and kind of trying to right the wrongs that you've made.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
it's pretty rooted in reality.
Right. And so one of her friends, or her friends are in on it, or one of her friends is actually the murderer. Is that spoilery, or?
No, I don't think it's a spoiler to say that at all.
Right.
You sort of suspect everybody at a certain point.
Mm-hmm.
Really, the only person that you probably don't suspect is her best friend, because she's the one who's sort of trying to figure out and solve everything throughout the book. So, yeah, there's a lot of different suspects. It's actually been really fun now that a lot of people have read the book now, and hearing who they thought it was and all their suspicions and things. It's really fun to hear that stuff.
Mm-hmm. So it feels maybe like a book we should read with the lights on. Like, is it scary? It's a thriller.
It's scary.
No.
I do love scary books.
Yes.
And the one that I'm reading right now is pretty scary. It's definitely a good Halloween read. But this one is not necessarily scary in, sort of the jump out and make you scream way, but it definitely is one that you might need Kleenex for towards the end, for sure.
Oh dear.
But it's more of like that thriller element where you're sort of on the edge of your seat trying to solve the mystery,
right,
rather than being scared. Yeah.
So you talked a little bit briefly about what Cassidy can do. I'm curious about that. Like, what are the rules for the world that Cassidy finds herself in? You said she's not able to touch people, and what is she able to do as a non-living being?
She can't interact with the living world, so no one can hear her, nobody can see her. She can't, she'll walk right through a wall, she'll walk through a chair, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So, and anytime she attempts to touch anyone, she actually dissolves into this really cool, like glittery dust. Oh. And it's really painful for her when she does it, but it's actually very beautiful to see. So she's sort of really frustrated for a big part of the book because she wants to connect with all these people that she's still able to see, but they can't interact with her. So
right. And do they have any glimmers of her presence?
There's little inklings. I purposely left it kind of ambiguous. But there's some scenes with her best friend and with her little sister as well, and one other character, where you're kind of wondering, like, can they see her? Can they sense that she's there? So it's sort of up for interpretation as far as that goes. But for the most part, I mean, even if they do on a certain level register that something's near them, they would never sort of admit that
Right.
it was a ghost, it doesn't go that deep.
Right.
But
Right.
there is sort of this inkling that a few of the characters that were closest to her do kind of sense that
Her.
she might not be totally gone.
I see. Yeah, it's cool. It sounds like she's a ghost, but it sounds like she is the one who's haunted sort of by the decisions that led her.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, very
Yeah,
cool.
she's definitely haunted by her choices, and I mean, ultimately, it's kind of, even though someone did cause her death, it's sort of her fault too, for making the decision she made and putting herself in those situations. So, yeah, it's kind of like a ghost who hunts themselves,
Right.
which is kind of a fun twist on it.
Yeah, very cool. So it just released. June was your debut month, right?
Mm-hmm.
And how has that been? How was debut month?
It's been great. I feel like I didn't do very much, and I feel like I also did something every day. I did a launch event here at a local indie called Nicola's Books, which I love. I'm there all the time, so I know the staff pretty well, and that had an amazingly large turnout. I had no idea so many people were going to be there. And then I also went up north to McLean and Eakin in Petoskey, and they have a store dog, so I loved being there. And on Saturday, I'm going down to Cleveland for something else at Loganberry Books. So
nice.
I was just doing little stuff here and there, but it's been fun. It's just really great meeting readers, and they're so excited. And I kind of like, what? Why are you so happy to see me? You don't even know me. So it's sort of like this shock of the book has a life of its own now.
Yes.
Which is really cool.
Just tell us briefly a little bit about you, how long you've been writing, and what authors you admire.
I've been writing since I started kind of later. I went to college for interior design and did that for a while, and then I did photography. So I started writing, I believe in 2009 was when I started. So I haven't been writing too long, but I got my agent off another YA book that was also a mystery. And then we ended up selling this one. So I haven't been writing quite as long as some other people, but it feels like, I can't remember a time before I was writing. I really love doing it, and it's definitely my passion.
Yes.
And as far as writers that I look up to, I really love Shirley Jackson. She writes a lot of creepy stuff, and there's sort of this looming darkness in all of her stories. It's really subtle, though. I really look up to her. I also love Megan Abbott, who I just met. She was in Ann Arbor, I think, 2 weeks ago for her new book, The Fever.
Oh, cool.
And she was just really cool, and we sort of talked about that article that was on Slate.com about being ashamed of reading YA and all this business.
Yes.
So
Right.
it was really cool to meet her. I was joking with her, she sort of writes grown-up YA books. Her books are essentially YA. They just sort of they're a bit more literary, I guess. She was saying that she was kind of called out in the article as being, if you want to read about teens, you should read Megan Abbott. You shouldn't read, whoever else. And so she was pretty upset that she was mentioned in the article.
Yeah, it's funny. Those articles they seem to have particular ideas about what is legitimate literature and what is just fluff. And most young adult authors would be classified in the fluff pile, right?
Yeah, which is sad. I mean, anything that gets kids reading, I think, is a good thing. And I also have a big conspiracy theory that the majority of readers for YA are teen girls, and society really kind of likes to disregard them and make everything they are interested in kind of unimportant.
Yeah,
so I think there's a bigger issue to that, and the fact that a woman wrote that article just sort of makes me even more angry that she said what she said.
Yeah, you are not alone in your ire. So switching gears, you are going to read an excerpt for us from your book. So let's let you do that. This is Bethany Neal reading from My Last Kiss.
Snow gathers around my eyes again, and I decide it must be tears, since it's impossible for it to be snowing inside. Although it's also impossible that I'd be standing in a morgue, staring at 2 sets of my hot pink nails. I close my eyes and try to remember how I got here, how I got to the river, how I stepped out of myself and broke every rule that was supposed to be unbreakable. My icy skin turns molten as the heat of last night returns to me. I can see faces, Madison and Ethan and Amy, someone else. It's Saturday night, and we're in Amy's ginormous backyard, standing in front of a roaring bonfire. My trio of junior girls is drinking vodka and Sprite with Jolly Ranchers, Jolly Voddies as Amy calls them, that are turning our clear drinks fruity colors. Cherry red, apple green, grape purple. The colors are so vivid, it's like I'm there, in that moment, HD instant replay memory style. I can smell the smoke and feel Ethan's gentle arms as they wrap around me from behind. He's next to me the entire night. Then he's not. Then I'm alone. Then I'm not. This part plays out in segmented bits, as if someone scratched the DVD of my life. When I open my eyes, the lights are on again, and the woman with the clipboard is back, with an unfamiliar man in a dark blue uniform, and someone else that I instantly recognize. Oh no, my dad is here. He's crying. I've never seen my dad cry before. I thought he was going to when my little sister Jules was born, but he didn't. I want to hug him so badly. A surge of need and fear consumes me. I run to him. I run through him. The prick of 1,000 needles attacking me from the inside out nearly drops me to the floor. Cassidy, baby, Dad says. His voice breaks my heart. Even if I no longer have one, I feel it crack and crumble inside my chest. Now I know I'm crying. I leave the room again. I can't stay and grieve my own death with my dad. Not one part of me still lives. I pass by an old man coming in the front door as I run out into the blizzard that is swirling up snow in little tornadoes around the parking lot. I look down, half expecting to see the flakes breezing through me, but they're glancing off my skin. I lift my hand to capture a handful, and for a fleeting second I can see a million tiny rainbows dancing in each individual flake in my palm, and the hollow hum of the wind is the only thing I hear. Then the world comes rushing back to me in dull grays, and I'm running again. Before I know where I'm running to, I see the riverbank. My feet stomp slushy puddles, and freezing water splashes my legs as I cross the park. Wait, it hasn't rained in days, and the snow on the ground is dry and frozen. Then how did my legs get wet? I wipe at the spray and come up with wet palms, covered in leafy debris and bits of ice. It's river water, dripping from my fingers as if they are fleshy faucets. As wetness seeps into me, spreading an eerie chill across my skin, I see Amy's tall white house through the trees on the other side of the covered bridge. The whitewashed planks that make up the bridge's walls are fissured and shadowed. The thread of the wind rustling the gaunt branches seems to be enough to blow the bridge right over. It's a vague remnant of the sanctuary it used to be for me. I stare across the partially frozen water, trying to remember what the bridge once was, but my vision starts to blur. I blink, bringing it back into focus for a brief moment. The bridge isn't sunny and bright the way it was that day with Ethan. Did I dream that? No, it was real. Ethan and me reflected beside each other that day. This bridge is where I had my first kiss, and I'm pretty sure it's where I had my last.